Well, Mr. Floyd, good morning and welcome to the Up Zone where understanding politics is made simple. For some reason, I cannot get our intro to play, but that we'll call it a technical glitch and keep it moving.
That is
we
good.
are, that's right. We are your favorite podcast that makes understanding both local and state and county government, the politics in those governments simple. And we focus particularly only on local government in the city of Fayetteville, the county government across Cumberland County, and state government in the state of North Carolina. And that's the gritty in the city and the word on the curb. And we like to jump right in. But before we do, I am one of your hosts. My name is Tisha S. Waddell. I used to be a city council representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville. And the other host that we have is Mr. Elmer Floyd, who was formerly a House representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and has now been redistricted into which district, Mr. Floyd?
I think it's 42 now with
I
the help
think
of
I
some.
think it is. The numbers escape me, but I think so too.
Yeah, yeah.
But most certainly, we appreciate all of you for tuning in with us, and we will go ahead and jump right in. Mr. Floyd, today is the 30th of November. First, before we get into the gritty in the city, how was your Thanksgiving? How was that Cornish hen, sir?
Well, I had more people than I expected
Okay.
because they got it confused. They thought I said eight, and I said
Okay.
eight.
So the tribe showed up.
Yes. So
I,
it was a little
I know
confusing.
that's right.
We worked it out. You know, we worked it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to spend the holiday with my family in Virginia. Mr. Floyd, I know that we do focus on the state of North Carolina, but I just want to say one thing before we get started. You know, it was very interesting. While I was in Virginia, I visited the Monticello house. You and I spoke while I was there.
Mm.
When you said you had to go see for yourself, because I really did have to go see for myself. Some stories are just too sensational for you to believe without seeing. And to think that a president would take girl, a 14-year-old black girl, impregnate her, drag her away from freedom in France, and bring, well, not drag her because apparently she agreed to come back, bring her back to the United States, and then kind of lie to her about, freeing all of her descendants. The story is just so it's too sensational to believe. But I guess history is just so we have such a torrid history here in the United States.
I'm glad you had an opportunity to view it.
I did. Now, Mr. Flood, I don't know what's going on with this background sound, but we got some background sounds going on. I'm going to try and see if I can clear that up. Can you hear it?
Huh? No, I don't.
It sounds almost like a I don't know what it is, but we gonna keep on rolling. And we appreciate that our audience does just roll with us and help us out when you need to help us out. But anyhow, today we're going to be talking about. I'm gonna just give a real general rundown about what we'll be talking about today, so that you know what you're in store for. We'll be talking about the filing period for the House, Senate, and District 2, both locally, both state and nationally. The filing periods are coming up. We're going to talk about campaign finance reporting, downtown parking in the city of Fayetteville, Cumberland County's parking deck, and traffic stops and crime in Fayetteville. So you are in for a treat with today's conversation. We do have a guest. Latanya Rose is our guest today. We'll be letting her in momentarily to join this conversation with us to talk about those campaign finance reports. Mr. Floyd, tell me about this filing period. When does that open up?
Well, it opened Monday, and we have. I mean, like you said, it's open. For state office to the 11. I mean, the 10 council of state, the 14 U.S. House seats, and the 120 NC House seat, and 50 NC Senate seat. And then
Mhm.
I believe we have the District 2 of the County Board of Commissioners, the educational election is sometime around July. But the filing period is going to be starting Monday at noon. And there's a lot of rumorville out there
Well,
about filing.
let's throw some rumors out there. Before we talk about a rumor, let's talk about a fact. A fact is that Courtney Banks McLaughlin has announced that she will be running in the district that is currently Lucas. The rumor is that Marvin Lucas will be retiring and intends to step down. We've also talked about the rumor being that who will run as a part of that district?
There will be quite natural Dr. Z, and also Michael Coben is also is going to file during that filing period. So I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
say everybody is going to file on Monday, but
Mm-hmm.
that they are going to start filing Monday at noon. But the thing that really I don't understand is how you want to run for a public office, but you want to run a CIA campaign. You know, that's that's sort of bothering when you are trying to seek public support, but you don't
Right.
want the public to know until you
But you
file.
know, Mr. Floyd, but sometimes people just want to keep it close to the chest until they make their announcement.
Teach that is good, but you have less than a 100-day window to get the public involved into your campaign.
Absolutely.
Less than a 100-day window. And so, you know, if you're going to run, stick your chest out and announce that and start announcing it way back so that you can formulate a base there. Because if you have your own
Absolutely.
little nucleus and only your own little nucleus know, other people make commitments too that don't know that you are going to run for office. But my thing
Absolutely.
of it is that I remind people, if you are not willing to put some of your own money into your campaign, now I'm not talking about $100 now,
Yeah, you
okay?
might need to have
We're
five to
not,
ten thousand dollars to put up for your campaign.
yeah. And then
Hmm.
before your party kick in to help you, they may say you had to raise $100,000, you know,
And they
in
generally
order.
want to see you make it through the primary before they extend real dollars. Now, Mr. Floyd, in terms of other districts, we're also hearing, I know that there's a rumor going around that there's going to be some competition for Senate seat for,
That's Val Applewhite,
yes.
Senator
So there's
Applewhite.
there's that conversation happening. There's a
That's definitely
conversation.
going to happen now.
Hmm.
As it is now, that person is going to file to challenge her.
Are we hearing about Charles Smith having any challengers?
Yeah, there's a rumor mill there too. Perhaps the governor may come down and do the same thing for that district that he did for Applewhite district. Is to say that that's a minority district and it should be represented by a minority. So you never know, since they don't think we're capable of electing our own representative. He may come down and assist whoever may file to run against
But
Charles
you know,
Smith.
sometimes that argument is only made when it's in your favor. Otherwise, it
But
doesn't really matter much. Listen,
but
there's also apparently there's a rumor going around that Larry Wright wants to run for office at the state level because while we ran into Larry, both Yvonne and I, while we were at the Key to the City presentation for Shakila and for Johnny, and he was being asked by Paul Wolverton about his this rumor about him wanting to run for office in the state of North Carolina.
well, he really wanted to run in 42,
Hmm.
but because of the Cumberland County delegation redistricting, you know, uh, uh, they moved him over to Francis Representative Jackson district. So the question
Hmm.
of it is, will he be running against her or not? Because Francis, I call her Francis, is Representative Jackson, was a little bit upset after she figured out what had happened to the redistricting.
They took
Uh,
some of her base.
yeah, you
They
know,
took some of her. That's why, and I'm gonna say this: reading is fundamental. And I was telling somebody recently. I said, You cannot, a lot of people rely on relationship when it comes to these packets. They rely on, will I have a relationship with this person? They wouldn't do this to me, or they wouldn't. You better read your stuff
That is correct.
because these relationships will betray you.
That's what happened. I mean, she sort of got the short end of the stick, but Smith, fared it pretty well because he was able to get some of Jackson district. So
Hmm.
it made his district, which is the minority district, much stronger for a
Hmm.
Democrat candidate. And I'll say once again, it is a Democrat, it's an African American district, and I truly believe that it should be served by an African American candidate. Again, maybe the governor will come down and help us.
Apparently, there's also a conversation being had with a young lady who ran for District 2 to run against Diane Wheatley.
Yes.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, that person may be Janine Ackles, which I think is a mistake. I think that if they were going to tap somebody to run in that district, I think they should have tapped Shaquilla Ingram.
Well, I think that is too, but you got to look at it. When you look at Diane, she's a Republican. She well established and well funded. The last time that she ran against me, she put up $50,000 of her own money to jumpstart that. Now, if you look at how the district was drawn, it is making it a Republican leaning district. And the second question of it is, you have 100 days to learn a new community which consists
Hmm.
of about 75 to 85,000 voters. And you gonna have to raise some money,
Right.
and you're gonna have to plant trees, and you're gonna have to get volunteers. And remind you now,
Well, that's why,
early,
again, that's why I say Ingram, because she has relationships that would have helped make that more possible than I think that the relationships that Janine has. I understand the logic behind what the Democratic Party is doing right now is to ensure that no seat goes uncontested. That
well,
everybody
that's
has.
well. Let me say this to you. You have to look at it. Representative Lucas served 20 plus years in the General Assembly.
Hmm. Hmm.
He got $0 from the Democrat Party to help finance his campaign. I served 12 years, and the Democrat Party gave me less than $100. And
Right.
had I known that they were going to give me that $100, I would have sent it back to them because I had to go back to school, you see, for less than a hundred
Look, you
dollars.
get somebody else to do it. Y'all can have this back.
But you can have, I mean,
Listen,
so
I'm gonna bring in Latanya so she can join this conversation with us. Hang on just a second, Mr. Floyd. I told her I'd text her first. First. Hey girl. Can you hear us?
no,
I
we can't
see
hear you.
her. Can you hear us, Latanya?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I need you to close one of your tabs because we can hear the feedback in the playback.
Okay, let me turn off this one.
Okay, sugar. So, Mr. Floyd, let me just tell you, I think it's very funny when we see the people that they're trying to pull to run because Diane Wheatley is now a two-term elected official. They're pulling somebody who's lost three or four elections to want to run against her. When we look at some of the others, it's almost like it's just throw something up in the air and see if it sticks.
Well, Tisha, I'm gonna let you know before you start interviewing Tanya there. But please bear in mind, it's a job. The person that interviewed her yesterday have completed their job,
They can check
and
their box.
if they're
They
successful,
can
they
check
can say
their
that
box.
yeah, they have talked this young lady into running there. But the commitment at the end of the day, I just don't see it coming for the financial force.
I understand. So now we're being joined by Miss Latanya Rose, and she is your campaign finance manager. And so she understands of managing a campaign at the state level. Additionally, she is a realtor extraordinaire, and we've run some ads for her company. She work here in the state of North Carolina, selling and buying these houses. And she also happens to be your daughter.
Yes.
So we're very pleased to be joined by you, Latanya. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today. I know that when Mr. Floyd approached me about this conversation, he said, "Listen, there are a lot of people who are going to want to run for office or who are getting ready to sign up for office, and they really don't understand the nuances or how important it is for to have correct, accurate campaign reports." And
Absolutely.
additionally, our community, those who are we are seeking to educate and inform, they need to understand how important it is to be able to review these reports so that they can see who's backing who. So, Latanya,
Exactly.
can you just take some time and walk us through what these campaign finance reports mean, where people can find them, and what the importance of those reports is?
Okay, good morning, y'all, and thank you so much for having me. Um, the campaign reporting component of elections or campaign committees is extremely important. Initially, you're thinking it's a watchdog, looking to see every dollar that you make, and they do. And they want to see how you're spending your campaign funds as well. So, initially, when you're getting ready to make up in your mind that, oh, I'm going to run for office, then once you have decided to do that and you make it official, you have a certain amount of time to go ahead and formulate your committee. You have to do what they call a statement of organization. And so once you file that with the state, I'm speaking for the state of North Carolina. I'm not sure about local races, but this is for the state level for the when he went for NC House District 43. Um, so we had to do a statement of organization. We also had to appoint treasurers or a treasurer to manage the campaign finances. And fortunately, we have two. We have myself and another young lady who's the assistant treasurer, because if I'm not available, then she absolutely slides in and fills in for me. So it works out perfectly. And but the nuances of it is the amount of information that you must keep, the information that you must gather. Just like Mr. Florida, my dad said, you got to start early, um, campaigning and raising funds, because that is probably one of the most critical component of campaign, um, of running a campaign, is raising money and getting
Mm-hmm.
yourself visible out there. So when you're raising money, there's so many things that you can accept. There's so many things that you cannot accept. You cannot accept cash donations over $50. Absolutely cannot. If somebody gives you $60, you're gonna have to politely slide that back to them and say they need to put it in the form of a check, a money order. And now we have what we call Zelle and Cash App. You can do those kinds of things, but you cannot absolutely accept a cash contribution over $50.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And when you're also accepting contributions, you have to get full contributor information. Now, the Board of Elections, I want to say this past year, has gone through an audit. All the campaign reports have been audited. We were audited as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were dinging us on were not completely filling out contributor information. Now, that's
Mm-hmm.
not to say that we did not try, because we also have a contribution card that has the state legislator general statute on there that say you have to disclose your name, your
Mm-hmm.
address, your telephone number, your email, your occupation, whether you're
Mm-hmm.
retired or not. So we collect all of that, but guess what? People don't fill it out. They don't fill it out, and nor do they write clearly. So you're
Right.
sitting, so
And
you got
then
to sit.
you have to go back and you have to try and compile this information. And sometimes it's not until the audit that you have to go back and do all of that. And so it can be a year later when you're trying to get all of this information together.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
and here's the other thing too. Okay, they have a cycle for your campaign reports. So when you're on an even year, you have reports that are due every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's four reports in a quarter. So you have a beginning period and an end period. So everything that you did in that period, you must report and disclose whether you spent money, whether you collected money, whether you did advertising, whether
Mm-hmm.
you did a fundraiser, whether somebody did some in-kind contributions to you. All of that has to be disclosed in that report in that period.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make sure you keep all that information. And me and my dad used to lock heads about this campaign reporting because I'm calling him. I'm like, who is this person?
Right? What does this say? Yeah.
I can't read this. So we were, having. I'm like, look, they're asking for it, and so if I don't comply or at least make a reasonable effort to get the information, then guess what? I'm gonna get audited, and they sure did.
Absolutely.
They're auditing all the campaign
And
reports.
Latanya, there's no such thing as I don't know. My mother was my campaign finance manager, and same situation. Like we would just be at it because she'd be like, "Well, what is this? What did you do with this? Where is this? What is?" And I would be trying to explain it, and she'd be like, "That's not gonna." And the candidate tends to get very frustrated. So my thing to the candidate would be, work with your treasurer because they are trying to keep you out of trouble. They're
I'm trying to
trying
get
to
you
make
out of
sure that
foolish
it's
services. Yeah,
yes. Yes. Work with
absolutely.
them.
Yes, because when and that's such a good point too, Tish, is that when you're accepting contributions, and a lot of people, we've had several fundraisers over the years through the time or the course that he ran for office, and some people, a lot of business owners, and naturally, when you come to a fundraiser, what are you there to do? Raise money.
That's
So
right.
guess what they would do? They would bring their business check
Can't
and
take
write
them.
a business check to the campaign. And when by the time I get the information, get all the envelopes and get everything open, Daddy, I got to send this back. I got to send this back. You can't.
Absolutely.
You got to call this person and say, hey, you need to give me a personal check. I
Latanya,
cannot.
how important is it for a candidate to select a qualified treasurer?
Imperative, because you have number one, all treasurers have to go through campaign treasurer certification. So that's an online class. You can take it either online or in person, whichever
Hmm.
your learning style is. And you have to take that within 90 days of you being appointed treasurer. So that's a requirement. And my assistant treasurer went through the training as well. So we both are certified. But it's extremely important because you have deadlines that you have to meet. You have report, and when I tell you the reports are intense, they're long. Um, they can be very drawn out, and you have to be somewhat computer savvy as well because
Hmm.
you can do them manually. I highly don't recommend it. The campaign financing software is pretty straightforward. You must know how to work and navigate the software so you can
Hmm.
get your report and pull your report and get them sent on time. Because we now, back when early when he ran back in 2002, 2004, we were submitting them manually
Hmm.
by hand.
Hmm.
But now they've gotten the software, and for all us Mac users, you can't use it. You got to have Windows. You got to have. I'm a Mac girl,
Me too.
but we had to get a laptop specifically so I can do the campaign reports. So the software is, like I said, you have to understand the software. They have the training manuals. They have the instructions on how to enter contributions, how to enter expenditures, how to do in-kind contributions. Because if you don't do them right, guess what? They'll inflate your report. And there you
Hmm.
go. There's an audit
Tanya,
Hmm.
now
because it's off.
go back and express to them about fundraising.
Hmm.
that Mary Jane's give you a fundraiser. Mary Jane's
Okay.
have to go back and then submit, as an in-kind contribution, the dollar value.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me go revert back. So when we did a campaign fundraiser, for example, a local attorney did it at his office, Attorney Alan Rogers. And so everything that he did for that fundraiser We have to have the receipts for. We have to have the receipts for the postage. We have to have the receipts for the invitations that he had printed. We had to have receipts for the food, the
Mhm.
napkins, the forks of fair market value, even though he paid for it. We have to submit it on our report because that dollar amount, once it totals, is what his contribution was. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
everything that he did, everything, we have to have receipts for that. So I was always working in tandem with his office manager, making sure that she gives me what I need because I'm going to need to be able to put that on the report. And like I said, if you don't put it on there right, it will inflate your report because it looks like you had that amount of cash, but you don't. It
Mhm.
was what was like a in-kind contribution. So yeah,
Mhm.
uh, it's imperative that you get all of that information. I cannot stress it enough. D- Detail, document, and detail again. You cannot do it enough because believe it or not, they will contact you about something that you receive. And here's another important thing too. Um, Sometimes we receive donations from PACs, political action committees, and those PACs will give you a check.
Now, Latanya, let
Okay.
me ask you a question about this while you're talking about PACs. Do
Hmm.
you seek out the funding from the PAC or does the PAC reach out to you?
Both.
Okay.
We have actually sought them out as well because think about it. We have a database, so everybody that has contributed to us in the past, it goes into our database, so we can tap them for the next fundraiser because if they supported us in one campaign, they may support us again. So we use
Absolutely.
that information and send out solicitations for them to, you know, contribute to the campaign. Now that kind of check, a political action committee check, you can accept that because they're registered with the state of North Carolina. So you can receive that contribution. Now if it was, Fayetteville optometry and Dr. XYZ wrote you a check from his business account, you can't receive that.
It has to be
It has
personal. Let me
mhm.
ask you this because we alluded, and I'm still going to do this, Mr. Floyd, but I am going to need your help. We alluded to the fact that we will be reviewing campaign finance reports to share information with our audience about the
Mhm.
candidates who have won elections. Um,
Mhm.
Latanya, what information can an individual? First of all, these reports are open to the public; they are outward facing
Absolutely.
reports. What
Mhm.
information can a citizen discern by looking through a campaign finance report?
Who's supporting who financially? You can go down the list.
Why is that
Anything.
important?
So you know what you're dealing with. You got to know who's supporting who. You got to know who the players are. So you can, and it's
Absolutely.
public information. You can see everything that they've done. You can even see what they've spent. All you have to do is go to the North Carolina Board of Elections campaign finance tab. And then that window drops down. And if you know the candidate's name, you can search by his name. If you know the committee's name, you can search by the committee. And everything is right there. Everything that they have received, letters, um, uh, when you don't file your report on time, they send you that penalty letter.
Hmm.
Everything that they communicate with you will be in that portal for that particular candidate. You'll see all his campaign reports, the statement of organization. When I changed my address,
It's there.
I had to let them know. Yes,
It's
it's
there.
there. Everything is there. Even our banking information. You
Hmm.
don't see the account numbers, but
But
you
you see
see
who you bank
exactly
with.
who I bank with.
Hmm.
Exactly. All
Hmm.
that
Tanya,
information.
Tanya,
Mhm.
can you share with them you were talking about PACs? Now, in receiving a check from a PAC, the PAC is going to record it on their finance report. Now,
Mhm.
the PAC may, on their report, Tish, may say July 1. You may not get the check until September 1. Okay? So,
Mhm.
but you got to record when it was sent and when you received it, and
Hmm.
That's
the
right.
year which it was received in. See,
Hmm.
so that's why it's so important that treasurer is in tune, and he or she, the board of elections, is not there to really criticize you or knock you over the head.
No, not at
It's
all.
simply to help you. make sure
Yeah,
that
they're
you
there to help you.
record accurately the money in which you receive.
They want to keep you legally compliant. Latanya, what would,
Exactly.
if you had to give a takeaway to, I want you to give a takeaway to candidates and then to the consumers, us as the people who review, who can look at these reports. What would the takeaways for each of us be?
Um, you definitely want to know who your candidate is supporting. You can definitely look at their campaign reports and see what organizations like those PACs, those political action committees, which ones are supporting them. That gives you an idea of what kind of candidate you're dealing with. Um, Again, the consumer has access to all the reports, every report, even on the federal level. You have
Mhm.
access to those reports. You can see clearly who is contributing to their campaign, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or indifferent. It doesn't,
Mhm.
everything is there. Or if you know that person, like, oh, I didn't know so and so
Supported this
supported them.
person. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You can see everything. So
Mhm.
I just highly, as we go start to gear up for this election that's coming up, be mindful, pay attention to your candidates, um, look and see what they're doing. I mean, when we ran our campaigns, we were very seldom. It was hardly. I think we had what 100% um, reports on time. That's critical because when you don't file reports on time, that's a
You are
reflection of the,
penalized.
yeah, you're penalized, but it's a reflection of your candidate. What is he doing? Why doesn't he know? Why are they getting the reports submitted? Is If he's not submitting his reports on time, is he showing up for meetings? Is he doing this?
It reflects poor leadership because the
Correct.
candidate is the head of this team, and
That's
they need
right.
to be putting the right people in place. And if they're not, that speaks to their level of leadership.
Exactly. So we had
Hmm.
to make sure that our reports were on time. I would give him, I'm like, okay, this is the dates that we have to record from January 1st to say April 30th. Cuts off is at April 30th. And what's critical too, like he was saying, when we get those contributions from those political committees and they wrote the check in July and you didn't get it till September, they filed their report that they submitted that check, but it
Hmm.
ain't on mine.
Hmm.
And so once I receive it, I have to amend that report to make sure I, compensate for that check that we just got in September. And I
Right.
always, and it's a battle.
Hmm.
We have been arguing with them like it's not fair. We should just report it when we get it. We shouldn't have to go back and amend the reports because we didn't have it at that time. But
Uh,
that's not what
Let
they
me give
wanted.
you an example, Tish. My
Okay.
party, 12 years that I ran for office, 12 years, gave me less than $100. And I believe that the report was due on the 25th. They filed it on the 25th. Okay, but we didn't get it, before the 25th. So we had to
Hmm.
go back and amend our report for less than $100.
Hmm.
I would have given them the $100. I would have wrote them a check for a
Look, they can
hundred
have
dollars.
that back, huh?
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
to go through the process of amending the report, because amending a report, is that you got to go back through the whole report and amend it, not
And
just that section there.
And I tell you, and thank God they came out with the campaign software because the campaign software will link that report to the most current report and it brings all the data forward. But before, when we had to do it manually, oh heaven help. But
Hmm.
now, if you have to amend the report, you have to go back to the a report that you're amending. And sometimes you may have to, if it was, depending on when you got, if you got two reports in there, you got to amend them all because they all have to be current. So
Hmm.
you have to have a qualified treasurer. She got to be able to read. Okay,
Absolutely.
it's you got to, like you said, reading is fundamental because that stuff you have to know. They don't want to hear it. The question is, should you have known or could you have known?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
And so that
Absolutely.
and that's how I go by it. So
So the
Well,
bottom
you
Mr.
line, so the
That's what I
bottom
was about to say,
line,
Miss Floyd. What you want to say? Go ahead.
bottom line of this, get you a treasurer. That's a treasurer. that is going to take on that responsibility. Don't get a treasurer because he or she look good.
Right.
You understand what I
And you
mean?
have to be able to trust your treasurer because they will have you in these streets looking stupid if you can't
Hmm.
trust them. And you'll be
That's
in
right.
all kind of trouble because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Latanya, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. What would you like to leave our audience with?
For all those candidates that are looking to file and run for election, I implore you to make sure that you form your committee. Make sure that you get qualified people that are going to be honest with you and work with you to keep you straight. Um, Especially your treasurer or treasurers. You're going to also need boots and boots on the ground. You got to
Mhm.
get your committees formulated, and as far as those campaign reports are concerned, uh, send them to the training. As a matter of fact, you can't even submit the report until you have shown them that you have completed the campaign treasurer training. And like I said, once you have been appointed the treasurer, you have 90 days to get that training done. Now, if you have a report due in that 90-day period, you can sign it. But after that, if you haven't got your certification, you cannot sign that campaign report. So that's the best advice that I have. Just make sure that you understand the legalities of everything that you're bringing in. 48-hour contributions when those have to be. It's so much stuff.
Share with them, Tanya, that 48 hours.
Oh, okay. So a 48-hour notice is basically whenever you receive a contribution over $1,000 within 10 days, I believe, of the election, you have to go ahead and disclose that prior to your report being due. They have to know that you received a donation in excess of $1,000. And once you do that, you report it. Then once you disclose it, then you have to file it on that next corresponding report. So all that information has to be gathered as well.
Mhm.
And
So
that includes too, if it's a personal, if it's you can't put $10,000 into your account, $10,000 cash. You have to get you a certified check
right,
Mhm.
and then deposit the check because it then bear your, your name. Even if you
Okay.
use a debit, even if you use a credit card, you have to notify the Board of Elections that this credit card belongs to me. Okay,
right.
Okay.
not John Doe.
That's something that you have to disclose when you're filling out your banking information, when you're setting up your campaign report, your campaign account, whatever bank you bank with. Um, if they give you a debit card, you have to disclose the debit card. If they're
Mhm.
giving you a checking account, you have to disclose the checking account. And maybe we put everything, they want us to give it a code. So we have to put a code in. So that way they know that when we make a purchase and he goes to Walmart to buy stuff for the campaign poll workers, and
Mhm.
we use the debit card versus a check, then they know that 4567 is assigned to the committee
That
to elect
debit
number
card.
four. That debit card,
Mhm.
right?
That makes
So
sense.
all of that has to be disclosed. So don't think you gon' be spending some money that ain't yours. And the other thing too, commingling of funds. Please do not mix your personal funds
With
with
your
your
campaign.
campaign funds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Latanya, I appreciate you taking your time out today. You are always such a pleasant person to deal with. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And we'll for sure be in touch with you because I know that as we go through and we're looking at campaign finance reports, Mr. Floyd may be well versed, but I know that I will need some help. So don't be surprised if I pick up my phone and say, "What does this mean, Latanya?"
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we
And if
look
I
at
can
each
be of
other
any
campaign
assistance, just let
reports.
me know.
Absolutely, will do, will do. And you make sure if you ever have anything you want to come and share with our audience, you let us know.
Absolutely, I will do it. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
girl. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye. So now, Mr. Floyd, I think that it's super important that we continue to let our audience understand how the process works. Let's do this though, because this feedback is about to drive me up the wall. I'm gonna stop this recording. We're gonna come back in the room and start again and do part two. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see y'all in just a moment. Come back.